it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial for the Space Wolves. Yes, we are back once more with yet another of their special, unique heroes, named epic characters, whatever they're called these days. We have, of course, got Njal Stormcaller. And fun fact, this is the second time we've painted him on the channel. We did him in his old Terminator plate as well. But a massive thank you to Games Workshop for sending me this one early to build up and paint with all of you. And that is exactly what we're going to do now. We're going to jump in and we're going to start painting him. He has been primed in Grey Seer. And the colour we're going to be using is a roughly 4-part Space Wolves Grey to 1-part Lahmian Medium mix. And we're going to be applying this over top of all of Njal's Space Wolves power armour, basically. So with that Space Wolves Grey all applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to shade all of it using some Tyran Blue. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is move on. And we're going to move on to all of the black details. The colour we're going to be using for this is some Black Legion. Now, we're going to be applying this over the top of the staff, over the top of the power cables, and stuff like that. We're also going to apply this over the top of the soft joints in his armour, and we're going to apply it over, well, most of the eagle or hawk or whatever the large bird is. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is going to take two colours, Skeleton Horde and Cygor Brown. I'm going to be applying this over top of all of the pelts present across Njal. So I'm going to start with the Skeleton Horde and we're going to apply this over top of the entirety of a pelt. So for example, this little tail down here. There we go. And then we're going to wash the brush, grab a little bit of Cygor Brown. I'm going to apply this at the same time towards the tip of the tail. And if you need to, you can take a little bit more Skeleton Horde. You can use that to smooth out the colours. However, we're just going to move on to the next one. It's going to be this one here. I'm going to apply the Skeleton Horde all over. Like so. Wash the brush. Grab a little Cygor Brown. And then I'm going to apply the Cygor Brown over the middle of the pelt. And the kind of same thing goes here. can add a little bit more Cygor Brown, or you can add a little bit more Skeleton Horde, should you choose to. However, I'm pretty happy with that as it goes. Might just add a little bit of extra Skeleton Horde. There we go. And then of course we have the big one as well on the back. And the same principle applies. So we apply the Skeleton Horde. Like so. There we go. And then we wash the brush, grab some Cygor Brown, then we just apply this. Wherever we want it. So with that all done, we're then going to take some Garaghak Sewer and going to be a little bit more targeted on this back pelt up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply the Garaghak Sewer over the top of the central part of the wolf's head. We're going to apply it over the top of the eyes, like so. Going to apply it coming down here, like so. Around the ear, and we're just going to apply a little bit of this Garaghak Sewer coming down the top part of the wolf pelt. So with that all done, we're now going to hop back to Cygor Brown. And we're going to apply this over the top of the pistol holster. And there's one horn at the top of his staff that we're also going to apply this over. Not a horn, it's a pouch. So with that all done, we're then going to take some Sigvald Burgundy and we're going to apply this over the top of the inside and outside of the cloak, as well as over the top of that last remaining little pouch. On his tabard. Just whilst we're waiting for all that Sigvald Burgundy to dry, we're going to take some Gore-Grunta Fur and we're going to apply this over the top of Njal's hair and beard. So with that all done, we're then going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Lamia Medium and Shyish Purple. We're going to apply this over the top of our burgundy areas. And so with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Black Templar. We're going to apply this over the top of all the little ritual stones scattered around. Now you could also do this over the base at this time if you wanted to, and that includes all the kind of floating rocks around him, and that is in fact what we are going to do now. But you don't have to do this if you don't want to. You can do it a little bit later on. And so with that all done, we're now going to take some Seraphim Sepia. I'm going to use this to colour in the skull at the top of the staff, up here. But what we're also going to do is we're going to use this to shade all of the fur pelts. And this will just create a little bit more distinction between the two obviously bone colours, especially at the top of the staff being right next to each other. And so with that all done, we're then going to take some Blood Angels Red. I'm going to apply this over the top of the smooth cables, one being up here. On the staff. And the other being on the bird. Next up, we're going to take some Darkoath Flesh and we're going to apply this over the top of Njal's face. And with that all done, we then want to take some Shyish Purple. I'm going to apply this over the top of the tongue of the bird, like that, as well as kind of cable bundling. And so, with that all done, we are now going to apply some metallics. And the first of these is going to be some thinned down Retributor Armour. We're going to apply this over top of all of Njal's bling, of which he has quite a lot. So we've got all of the stuff that's set into the armour, like these skull and lightning bolt motifs. We've got the trim of the bolt pistol holster, parts of the staff, it's a whole lot of gold, so I'd recommend having the box art open in front of you for this bit. And so with that all done, we're then going to take some thinned down Iron Warriors. I'm going to apply this over top of all of our remaining details. So with that all done, it's time to add some shades. And the first of these is going to be some Carroburg Crimson. I'm laughing because it sounded like I'd completely given up then. And then next up, we're going to apply some shades. Carroburg Crimson. We're going to be applying some Carroburg Crimson over the top of all the gold. I make myself laugh. And with that Carroburg Crimson all applied, we're then going to take some Nuln Oil. I'm going to use this to shade the silver, but also the black of the staff and the feathers of the bird. And with that all done, we're then going to take some Fuegan Orange. I'm going to use this over the top of Njal's hair and beard. With that all done, Njal Stormcaller is now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready, and he's looking pretty good. However, we're not going to leave him there, of course not. No, we're going to take him to the next level, and we do this by adding some layers and some highlights. Now, the first two things we're going to be doing are layers, and they're both corrective. And one of them is because it's since come to my attention that Njal's shoulder here is actually yellow. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Yriel Yellow. I'm going to use this to paint the shoulder yellow, and that's going to take 3 or 4 thin coats. So we're just going to get this on there, build up a nice strong yellow. With that yellow now established on that shoulder pad, we can now actually finally move on. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some Russ Grey and we're going to thin it down with roughly 4 or 5 parts water to make it nice and runny. We're going to use this as a little kind of glaze over the top of all of the Space Wolves blue armour. And this is just to help us correct any patchiness and smooth it out. Just kind of punch up the colour a little bit. Now if you don't have any patchiness, you don't need to smooth it out, you don't need to do this step, you can just move on. However, what we're going to do is we're going to apply this over the top of the kind of flats of the areas, just avoiding any of the recesses, such as all these lovely runes carved into his armour. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Fenrisian Grey. We're going to use this to highlight all of Njal's armour. with all that Fenrisian Grey applied, we're then going to take some Thinned Down Blue Horror. I'm going to use this to add just a couple of little spot highlights to the sharpest corners in all of that power armor. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is move on. I'm going to take some Thinned Down Dawnstone. We're going to use this to highlight all of the black details, including the bird up here. Now what we're not going to do is highlight the staff. Or the rocks on the base. However, for the rocks that are floating around him, we are going to do kind of a rough highlight of those. And for any of the little ritual stones, like this one in here, we're actually just going to do a full relayer. So with all that Dawnstone applied, we're then going to take some Thinned Down Administratum Grey. And we're going to use this to add some little spot highlights to those rocks. Like that. To the ritual stones, we're going to fully highlight the stones. Like that sort of thing. And for the bird, we're going to do some spot highlights towards the end of each of the feathers. So with that all done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take a small amount of Coelia Greenshade. We're going to apply this over the top of the bird. This is just going to kind of tint that grey. A sort of greenish colour. So with that all done, our next job is to take some Karak Stone, and we're going to use this to dry brush the pelts. Now it's not going to look like it's doing very much down here, but once we start getting up to here, it's going to have a lot more impact. So just be nice and gentle. And so with that Karak Stone dry brush applied, we're then going to take a very gentle dry brush of some Screaming Skull. I'm going to use this just to hit the sharpest points. This is where you're going to see a little bit more impact in the bottom areas. And so with that all done, we then take a teensy tiny little amount of Yriel Yellow. I'm going to apply this over the top of the wolf's eyes. Speaking of eyes, we do need to take a teensy tiny little dot of Evil Sunz Scarlet, and we're going to apply this over the top of the bird's eye. Like that. But what we're also going to do with the Evil Sunz Scarlet is going to use this to just add a little highlight to those red power cables. So with that all done, we're now going to take some thinned down Daemonette Hide. We're going to use this to highlight the cloak and that little pouch on his tabard. That Daemonette Hide all applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Slaanesh Grey. I'm going to use this to add just a couple of tiny little spot highlights, those sharpest corners in the cloak, the pouch, and what we're also going to do here is going to use this to highlight the cabling on the bird. So with that all done, our next port of call is to take some thinned down Scrag Brown. We're going to use this to highlight his hair and beard. That Scrag Brown all applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Flayed One Flesh, and we're going to use this to highlight Njal's face. And with that Flayed One Flesh applied, we're then going to take a tiny amount of Black Legion and we're going to apply this over the top of Njal's eyeballs. And with that Black Legion applied, we're then going to take a teensy amount of Screaming Skull. I'm going to apply this in the corners of his eyes. Like that sort of thing. But in addition, we're also going to use this to highlight the wolf's teeth and Njal's teeth as well. So with that all done, what we're going to do now is we're going to make two mixes, and they're both very thin glazes, basically. Emperor's Children and Lothern Blue, two separately, and they're both thinned down with roughly 4 or 5 parts water each. And we're going to be using this to add some of that kind of magic-y goodness that you can see scattered around the model, and this is where we're going to be bringing in the staff. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Emperor's Children, and in those runes up the staff, we're going to be applying this up until about halfway. So we just want to drop this in. Like so. There we go. I'm going to keep going up to here. But we're not going to do the whole thing. Only some of it. And then similarly above the rock. And some of it. And on that diamond there. We add some of it towards the bottom. Like so. Then we wash the brush and grab some of that Lothern Blue. And we do the same thing. like that. If there's a little too much, just go in with no paint and just touch the brush. To the areas, like so. And then we just continue with the Lothern blue up the staff. Again, a little too much there. There we go. However, another thing we're going to do, I'm going to take that Emperor's Children once again, and on the rocks at the bottom, what we basically want to do is we want to add, in between where they're kind of starting to float, just want to add the occasional bit. So for example, around here. So with that all done, we're then going to take some thinned down blue horror. I'm going to use this to highlight the blue runes on the staff. So with that all done to the staff, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Ironbreaker. I'm going to use this to highlight all the silver. And with all that Ironbreaker applied, we then take some thinned down Liberator Gold. And we use this to highlight all the gold. So with that all done, we're now going to finish off Njal by taking two colours. And we're going to be using these to do the lenses. And the colours are Frostheart and Blood Angel's Red. I'm going to start with the Frostheart. The Frostheart we're just going to apply up here. Like that. Whereas the Blood Angel's Red, we're going to apply over the top of all the remaining sort of gems and lenses. We've got a little one just here. Got one on the shoulder. And one on the eagle. And so with his base now complete in the same style as the rest of our Space Wolves, Njal Stormcaller, for the second time on the channel, is now finished. Although this is the first time he's not in Terminator armour and in plastic here on the channel. Still the second time though. But here he is, a beautiful rendition of a new model, and this is quite fun to do. I particularly like that staff. I think it looks fantastic, and I hope you agree with me.
If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/warhipster, just like all of these wonderful, amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done, scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.